And away we go. It is the BCJ podcast. Brought to you by our good friends at the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. I would like to thank everyone for joining us throughout the month of October at the Holy Grail for our watch parties as the Bearcats played 3 of their first 4 conference games on the road. Not going to be there much in November for that specific purpose, but that doesn't mean you can't stop down to the Holy Grail on your own and get yourself some grub, delicious pizza, have a few beverages while you're at it. All right, let's get this show on the road, David. Mr. Simone.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Good. Been a busy week, but always good to be back in the thick of things on a week where there's a home game, and on a week where we get between now and the next time that we do this, we're going to be in the thick of it next week.
Yes.
We got football on Saturday, basketball on Monday, basketball on Thursday, football on Friday, basketball on Sunday.
Jesus.
5 games in 8 days.
It's that time of year.
It's that time of year. About to be right in the thick of it. So we will have all kinds of things to discuss as we continue to move forward on this podcast. I don't really want to talk about what happened on Saturday anymore. Do you?
No, I think Jeff and I covered it pretty well Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And
most of which I agreed with.
Stephen, you don't have to apologize for telling us that there was breaking news with the Big 12 media contract. That was more than okay to relay, as you know, neither of us are able to check Twitter too much while we're in the middle of that. So I appreciate it, so that we could talk about it, because we wanted to make sure it got covered. It's big news. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about it tonight, but no.
Have you spoken to Dan?
I have spoken to Dan.
How's he doing? He's been very busy lately, so I'm just curious about his well-being.
He's had a good week. That's
good. It's good. Does Dan follow basketball? Does he know much about basketball?
He used to. He's kind of fallen off a little bit of late, but I think he mentioned to me that he was eager to get back into things.
All right. Well, looking forward to hearing from him as things go on. Do you have any closing thoughts on UCF?
No, none.
None?
They didn't.
Not a single remaining thought. Okay.
No, not really.
I think we've talked about it, about all you can possibly talk about it. So, all right, good show.
Pretty strong in my opinions Sunday morning. I don't think I need to rehash any of those, and nothing new has come through my pea-sized brain, so I'm ready to move on.
All right. Move and the process of moving on. I had to drive around a lot today. Kelly had an appointment. I had to go record some stuff at iHeart. I had to pick Kelly up from her appointment, drive her home, drive back to the Banks to do some radio with Mo, drive back here. Been in the car a lot today, Dave. A lot of driving. This was the question I thought was the most prevalent to start this show.
Okay.
Are we at a point where this team just is who it is? Like, we talk every week. What needs fixed? What do they got to get better at? What do they got to do here? What do they got to do there? After eight games, 9 weeks, is this the Bearcats? This is who they are. And instead of worrying about, we got to fix this, or this has to get better, or you got to do this, is it time to just say, okay, this is who we are, figure out how to win. Figure out how to deal with who we are and go win games.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've kind of, not in a as direct way, But I've kind of,
I'm direct.
I've kind of alluded to that the last couple weeks where, I think in moments or in games, yeah, sure, they can get better. They can execute better. You can, just play better in general. But I think from a...
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, this is not all of a sudden going to be a team that is great out on third down defense.
No. You are who you are, I think, at this point, in the sense of,
that's
like,
what I'm getting at.
They're not all of a sudden gonna start. I can't imagine. I mean, who knows? But it's hard to envision just like the 2/3 of the season is done, and these last 4 games they're gonna go from a 41% third down defense to a 48 or 49% third down defense, or similar things in offensively, stuff like that. That's kind of baked into what they are, and whether that's... there's a lot of factors that go into it, but it's hard. The book is out. You're scouted very well. Teams that's kind of, this is who they are, and they can have explosive moments, but they're not putting it together right now. And I think it's going to be a struggle from here on out offensively. So we'll see how they try to...
What if I told you that
prove me wrong?
There could be the change maybe on the offensive line coming this week against the Navy.
Is that your attempt at a terrible German accent?
Maybe.
That's still French.
Yeah,
kind of.
It definitely seemed...
I can't do German. We've already determined this. I can't do German. My German is terrible.
It was like
I'm German.
Pepe Le Pew flashbacks.
Yeah, I'm German. My family is from Germany, but I can't do German at all. I can't.
Well, I mean, if we want to go back to the very beginning, I posed the question: is that the best offensive line with him involved, and not moving so many pieces around from where they were last year?
Well, I mean, if he's involved, it's not simple. It's not simple.
No,
he's a right side of the line guy.
Right, but I meant like having him at right guard and Quinn at right tackle. Now Huber has played pretty darn well for the most majority of this season, and we did not know
going anywhere.
We did not know that coming into the year. So I mean, that was why my basis
Huber's not going anywhere.
Right. So then, if Huber's not going anywhere, and the German sausage is on the right side, if I'm reading the tea leaves, that would indicate that maybe Dylan O'Quinn is moving to left guard. So, we shall see. That would make in my opinion, a pretty formidable inside duo of O'Quinn and Metz. But Metz also hasn't played all year. How does that? I mean, he's probably played, but you know what I mean, like from a serious 50, 60, 70 snap type thing. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not at this point not really against any tweaks, personnel changes, whatever you think might be able to, in this case, probably jumpstart more of the running game than the passing game. But I'm not opposed to any of it. I mean, the offense has regressed, been stagnant since the second half of the Indiana game. So, yeah, why not?
Get to a couple of things. Is it surprising that Corey kind of doesn't know the playbook at this point of the season? Who said he didn't know the playbook?
I don't think. I mean, that's nothing that I've heard from anybody.
I think his biggest problem is the other two guys are better in pass protection. And if you look at what happened in the Central Florida game, they passed a lot. They did not run a ton in the UCF game. They ran 14 times. So if you're going to be in situations where you're going to throw, you need the two guys back there that you trust the most in pass protection. And Corey's been stop and start. Like, he hasn't had the work that those guys have had.
Pass protection, yes, but I would say that the other two guys are also
bigger pass catchers,
bigger threats, pass catching and as receiving threats. And I just think you have several good running backs. Like in a game like that, someone's getting pinched. Like, does it really matter if you run it 14 times or whatever it was, and they're split evenly, and each guy gets 4 or 5 carries?
Right.
Like, I don't know if that really matters in a game that you can't run the ball. Does it matter who got carries?
Jerome Ford said that. Jerome Ford's not on this team. It's not that he's not still in communication with these guys, but I don't put much.
I'm not going to speculate on what. Who knows?
He knows the playbook, or whatever.
It's not something I would feel comfortable doing because I don't know one way or the other. But it was just it was a game that they could not run the ball, and they realized that, and so they decided not to keep pounding their head against the wall, which I totally understand. So someone's not getting the carries, and so if you're passing the ball a lot, you're going to have your pass blocking backs or your pass receiving backs in the game.
Yeah. Other thing being, how can a defense be great on first and second down and drop off so much on third down? I don't know that they're great on first and second down. This is a very boom or bust defense.
I mean, the last 2 drives of the UCF game, they only had 1 third down and they went right down the field. So they weren't good on first or second down on those 2 drives either.
Right. And it's home run or strikeout. Like it's 2 outcome defense right now.
When they're able to get pressure and cause havoc,
sacks, tackle
with the
for loss,
quarterback,
havoc, yeah.
You know, when you get that much pressure and you've had that many sacks and that many tackles for loss, you're putting teams in tough down and distance situations. When they haven't been able to do that, teams have not really struggled moving the ball on them. So it's very similar to the offense, where if it's not a bunch of explosive plays or one big explosive play, then they struggle to, we don't see a lot of 10, 12 play drives offensively.
No.
We see 3, 4 play drives, 5 play drives, and we see that end up in punts, or we see 5, 6, 7 play drives that end up in touchdowns. There's not a lot of methodical 12 play, pick up 3 third downs, stuff like that out of this offense, and it's actually kind of similar to the defense.
Yeah,
they're either putting
another thing I was thinking about today. It's either home run or strikeout.
They're either putting the opponent in 3rd and 18, and it's hard to pick up 3rd and 18 no matter what play you call, or they're not really in third down very often because they're getting first. UCF only had 14 third downs. They converted 7 of them, and they had 30 first downs.
85 plays, 30 first downs. Do the math. It ain't strictly a third down problem.
No.
Health. It's another thing that this team was very lucky last year.
Oh, dude. If you really, go back and look at it. What main contributor?
There were 2 main injuries last year. Both of them high ankle sprains. Jerome Ford, yeah, that was another one. Michael Young and Malik Van. I was talking about extended, like that drug out for a while.
Right.
Were the ankle sprains for Michael Young and Malik Van. And then you had shorter ones. Jerome Ford missed 1 game, 1.5 games?
Yeah, he either missed a game, started it, got hurt, then he was kind of fits and starts for like a 3-game period. He didn't play one game, but then he was like out the game before that for a while and then wasn't 100% the third game. So
Tonk, watch the show, brother. We got a lot of time to fill. I know you got a lot of questions. We're going to get to it all. That's what we're here for.
but yeah,
I
mean
promise.
last year they were about as healthy as you could really expect all the way through too. Like nothing in camp and nothing really in the season.
Well, Josh in camp got dinged up.
But no one was out for the year. You always see somebody out for the year in camp. I mean, it's 3 hard weeks of practice, and nobody. They went into the season about as healthy as they've ever been, and kind of carried that all the way through. And they're just not having that same, injury luck this year. And when you're replacing the talent and experience that they're replacing, and then some of the more talented, more experienced guys are the ones getting hurt, you're asking guys that have been really good at the beginning of the year in like a 10, 15, 20 snap type of usage to now be really good in a 40, 45, 50 snap type of usage. And they're just not quite there yet.
A lot of this now is getting to a situation where this was supposed to be like the apprentice year for a lot of these younger guys, right? Like they hadn't really seen the field because they were blocked. Now they were going to get to be 1Bs where, like you said, 10, 15, 20 snaps. You get that experience. You stack a season under your belt. You're a major part of game planning, and you're a major factor in your position group. And then, the mentor, the master, gets hurt. And now you're forced into action. And as you start getting in game 8, game 9, and it's a lot of wear and tear. It's a lot of working through something that you weren't expected to be ready for. Whereas even last year, like, if the guy went out, you still felt pretty good about what was next. And it's not that you feel bad about what Cincinnati's bringing in. It's that you don't know anything about what they're going to look like when the lights go on. Which means you get it in like flashes, right? The light doesn't stay on. It's on strobe. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just you're dealing with guys that you're going to get inconsistent play because they don't have the experience. They don't know, they haven't been on the field enough to know, like, oh, I remember last year when these guys did this,
right?
And this lineman, or they had this alignment, and we had this call, and I did this, and they're doing stuff for the first time. You're never going to be as confident. You're never going to be as good when you're doing anything the first time versus, a third, fourth, even fifth year guy that's, you look at the guys last year, Kobe, Sauce, DeBlanco, Curtis, like those guys played UCF 3-4 times.
Yeah.
But a lot of the guys on the defense this year, either they played very, very little against them last year, and maybe only in the second half when it was a blowout, or they never played against them at all.
Right. And
so you're dealing with that, and I'm not using it. It's not an excuse. You're just like, it's just the growing pains of a younger, more inexperienced team trying to uphold expectations that I think were rightfully placed on them, but there also is just, a little bit of a drop off that maybe we didn't see coming. That is, in watching the games play out, is totally understandable. Not that it's acceptable or expected, but I don't think anything that we've seen is like, you can't go like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I mean, it's pretty reasonable to do what they're doing. And when you're dealing with all of the little intricacies that they had to deal with from last year to this year.
Yeah. How much of that, and Luke wouldn't bite when I asked him yesterday, I tried. How much of that do you think is how much they've been on the road through the first 8 games of this season?
I mean, I'm sure it's a little part of it. I mean, you build confidence. Everybody knows how confident they are at home.
Right.
Um,
That's what I'm talking about.
you
Like
you
you've
build
never really
confidence
been
at
able to
home.
get on a roll.
You build a routine. You've not only had, I would say, of the conference teams, obviously UCF and UC have this, whatever sense you want to call it, rivalry, whatever. Tough to go down there and play. SMU's not really ever been a tough place to play, but they're one of the more talented teams in the league. And Tulsa, for whatever reason, has given UC, been a physical, close game more times over the last few years. So you're playing whether it's the more talented teams or the teams that just seem to play you well. You play those 3 teams in a row, not in a row, UCF was in there, but 3 road games in a row. So you got all those guys in a row on the road, and I'm sure there's a somewhat of a wearing effect, but at the same time, you have to, if you're going to be the team that we want them to be and that they probably want themselves to be, you have to be able to be better than that and figure out a way to get the win. And they had in the previous games, and they just weren't able to on Saturday.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting, from that perspective of you're trying to build confidence, you're trying to build momentum, and you're on the road at Arkansas, you come home for the FBS game, down to Paul Brown, which is home, but it's not. You're not at Nippert. Indiana, and then boom, 3 of 4. And we talked about this when we previewed the season. It was going to tell the tale where they came out of at the UCF point of the season, because you were going to have 5 of your first 8 games on the road and 3 of your first 4 conference games on the road. Could they survive it? And they couldn't. That's all. Matt.
Is this Matt Chick from ESPN?
I don't know. Matt, are you from ESPN? Who's the leader when things go wrong? Luke Fickle, probably.
But from a player standpoint, I think there is we're not there. I don't want to say there's a void, but you knew last year who the leaders were.
Yeah, you know why? Because those guys played every snap for 4 years.
Right. And so you just, you can't automatically anoint a leader. Just hey, it's a new year. I know, I was just joking. They have to come to the surface on their own, and maybe this team doesn't quite have that person. I think Jabari is kind of in that role, but I don't know.
Huber defensively, Jabari defensively.
But I'm not sure they're their style. Dez, I think, was more quiet, but when he wanted to say something.
Yeah, but that grew over time too.
Right. That's my point. Is you can't just it just has to. I don't know if they have anybody in that role because they haven't been in that role.
Right. And that role hasn't been needed here for a while.
And it gets tougher when you have I think it's going to be tougher, and I think it's going to maybe be something we see nationally at times, because with the transfer portal, does that make it harder to build leaders from a year in year out basis? I'm not saying Ben is not a leader or is a leader, but if your quarterback is new and he's in a different situation because he's been here before. But with all these quarterbacks that move around and everything, is it hard to build that leadership with so many guys? UC doesn't really mind the portal nearly as much as a lot of schools. So I wonder if that's the thing that you start seeing. It's just if things start to go bad for a team, who's there to kind of pull things back in line if you've had a bunch of guys leave and then a bunch of guys come in, and it's almost a truly a new team every year.
Yeah.
Even though it's a different team every year, like the UC team, for example, going from 20 to 21 was like very much. We were like, this is like we joked about it in camp. We're like, there's nothing to talk about because it's like the same team.
Yeah. Everybody is in the role they were in last year, essentially.
I don't know if you get that as often with the portal moving forward.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a valid and relevant like reality because it's a different era. It's a different time in college sports where there's just not going to be many situations going forward where you have a team where everybody's been starting for 2, 3, or 4 years. Like it's just not how this sport works anymore, right?
Right. I also don't think it's out of the ordinary to just have a year where maybe it just doesn't. You just don't have specific guys that fill that type of role. I mean, I don't think that's odd to just be like, well, this year we just didn't quite have it, but next year like this, we think we will.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a year-to-year thing. I don't know how you even because leadership is and this isn't new. Like we're all grown-ups. We've all been around for a long time. In a year-to-year setting, like unless you've got Dez and Kobe coming back, right?
Right.
It has to develop organically. It has to be natural. And there's nothing you can do to fake it, right? There's nothing you can do to say like players A, B, and C. Those are the guys we're turning to. Because there are going to be times that the team doesn't follow your lead, right? The team is going to follow the lead of the players that do the best job leading from the front, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, you just can't manufacture it. It's either gonna be there or it's not. And again, I can't really comment on whether there's a void there. I mean, I'm sure when the season's over, depending on how it plays out, that we could probably get some off the record stuff that we probably still wouldn't tell you. But
right.
I mean, we could hint around about it. But I mean, it's tough to can't really glean anything from it right now. I mean, now if you see like another loss or two the rest of the regular season, then I think you could maybe do some inferring and possibly some assuming. But I mean, if they end up winning the last 4 games and going 10-2 and making the conference championship, I think I'm not sure it's something that really needs too much of a deep dive into.
I concur. As we go into this final quarter of the season, is there anything you think that can be corrected, that can be taken from the side of that's who this team has been so far and put over into the column of they figured whatever it is out that was holding them back in these certain areas?
I mean, I think defensively they just had a bad game. They had bad tackling, bad, So I'm not certain. I'm not sure there's one thing or something that I would say defensively that I'd be like, if you did this or if you, I still think they're good defensively. They're not, even with the game that they just had, a lot of their numbers are still very good, and I think that they'll figure that out. Offensively, I think the thing that, and I mentioned this Sunday morning, was that I do think that they would benefit, the entire unit would benefit from maybe just some what I call gimmies or freebies. Like I just feel like in the passing game, it is an aggressive passing game, which I appreciate, but it is not a passing game that helps you get into a groove early in a game.
Unless you just manage to hit on that first drive.
Unless you're playing a pass defense like Navy's, or you or you hit it. Like you said, if you hit them, great. But like, I would just like to see him like, here's just a couple easy ones.
Well,
Couple
they have tried that, and Ben has either thrown a bad pass or the receiver has dropped it.
Yeah, couple chain, like just some quick chain movers. Like get us in 2nd and 3.
Right.
Even 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. I mean, your whole playbook is essentially open to you at that point. But they're starting 2nd and 10, then they're running the ball for 2 or 3 yards, or they're, what was it? Saturday, they actually did okay on the first down play and then ran it for nothing and then brought Evan in. And it's, so I think that, and I would like to see a little bit more. And again, you're 8 games in. The scheme is the scheme. Like, I'm not sure how much they're going to change, but just, you're asking me the question. I would like to see a little bit more creativity out of the run game, a little bit more to the outside, a little bit more misdirection, a little bit more, trying to fool the defense. I'm not sure that's the right word, but like trying to get them to show you what their intentions a little bit more. Like, we're static offensively, in my opinion. We don't really use motion that much. Just those things that I think are realistic tweaks that might just help them a little bit.
Yeah. All right. I guess we've without the UCF talk, we needed to fill something for the first little segment of the show. So there's the first segment of the show, and now let's get into looking ahead to Navy, who is now without their starting quarterback.
Yes.
They have had some performances this year that have been better than expected. They've had some really, really bad performances this year as well. What does the Dave Simone research team tell him about this Navy squad?
Offensively, they're just not what they weren't very good offensively last year, but they're, with Ty Lavatai being out, they're going from a 6'2", 221-pound quarterback to a 5'9", 176-pound quarterback. So you're going to see, they run the triple option, but there is a lot of option inside of that. Not everything is the same. You can't just throw option out as a blanket term. I think you're going to see a lot more like straight option to the perimeter. So linebackers, DBs are going to have to be on their game. Xavier Arline is their starting quarterback now. He is much faster, much more athletic than Ty Lavatai, but unless they get down real big, I'm not expecting them to throw the ball.
Yeah, it's just not what they do.
It's not what he
more
does.
more so than normal.
Like they don't throw the ball in general, but like
right, that's what I'm saying.
He's not a throwing quarterback. He had one pass attempt against Temple last week.
They didn't complete a pass, right?
No, yeah, they were. Lavatai was
won a game and didn't complete a pass.
Yeah, he was 0 for 1, and Xavier Arline was 0 for 1. So I don't think they're going to be doing much throwing. Daba Fofana is the fullback. He's the key. First down is the key. You hear all the old cliches like.
Wait, you're telling me that the dive is the key?
It is
stopping
the key.
The triple option?
It is.
Huh.
You tackle the fullback on every play, no matter what.
I had a conversation with somebody about that yesterday, and they gave me a hard time.
Did he say that it wasn't?
No, he never. He.
That's what you should. That's what I would have said. So you're saying that that's not the key?
I tried to do that, and he avoided the redirect.
Of course he did.
He just wanted to know if I was telling him how to stop the triple option. I told him yes.
You should have said, "Well, are we going 2017 or are we going recently?"
I don't want him to fight me. That's a strong man.
Yeah.
That was his weekly shot this week.
Right. 488 yards, 3.7 yards per carry, which is not surprising. You're the fullback, but
Right.
I mean, 500 yards.
But 2nd and 6. You can't live in 2nd and 6 against
I
the
mean,
option.
if they're living in 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, then you're in 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and you're going for it on a bunch of 4th downs, and it's just you get 2 first downs, and it's a 6-minute drive.
Yeah.
The two other main, whatever you want to call them, slot back, wing back, running back, Markel Haywood, and Vincent Terrell. Haywood's the more dynamic guy, 6.5 yards a carry, almost 400 yards rushing. Terrell is like their second leading receiver as well, so he's, he'll get the ball in the backfield. I'm imagining those guys might get a few more carries. The splits might be a little different. Like I said, I don't think they're going to run as much inside stuff with the quarterback, being that he's the second team quarterback and he's also very, very small. So I think they're going to want to get him on the perimeter, get him in space, get him in a pitch situation with Haywood and Terrell, and you might not see quite as much of Fofana, and I think you definitely won't see as much of like the play where Lavatai would take the snap and kind of like go to the side a little bit and then just run behind the fullback. The keep stuff, the between the tackles, quarterback keep stuff. I'm not sure you'll see as much of that. Defensively, they're weird. They have 19 sacks, which is pretty good. 6 interceptions, 9 forced fumbles. Guess how many they've recovered?
I don't know. 9.
9. Which is quite an anomaly. So that they're pretty good at forcing turnovers. The concern I have is, if you remember last year, they did a lot of damage with games and stunts and pressure up the middle. And someone last week did a lot of damage with games and stunts and pressures up the middle. So they better figure that out because they're not good pass defense. They're small on the outside. Like, this could be a big mismatch game for Josh, Lenny, Nick Mardner. They stop the run pretty well. I mean, they're 16th in yards per carry allowed, 3.22. But they are atrocious in pass defense. Opponent passer rating, 123rd. Yards allowed per attempt, 124th. Like,
Is this a game where you just come out, pass? Put the run game aside for a little while.
If you feel like you can pick up their games and pressure, but I mean, we didn't do that last week.
They haven't done it all year.
Right. So I mean that they gave Dez as much fits about as anybody last year with inside pressure.
Yeah.
And so this is the game where this is the type of team that I'm saying this is where I want the freebies. Like, hit the quick stuff first to hopefully keep them from doing that. Like, if you hit them with the quick stuff and you break, just like UCF did, and you break some tackles and you move the ball that way, then they can't pressure as much because you're not taking these like long developing plays. You're getting the ball out quick. You're making them turn and run, and they have smaller DBs. So get it out to our bigger guys. Get it to our receivers. Like, get the ball in Tyler Scott. You don't have to hit Tyler Scott in a 75-yard touchdown for him to be effective.
It felt like he was knocking some rust off against UCF big time.
For sure. I mean, that's understandable. But like, that's my concern is like, sure, I think you're going to beat them by throwing the ball. We're a passing-oriented team. They're not good stopping the pass. But they do a lot of stuff defensively that you haven't seen, just like offensively. They do a lot of stuff that is not super common, and they're going to run games because they're not big enough to just take on offensive linemen head up. So they have to run games. They have to run stunts. They have to try to confuse you, give you different looks, bring pressures, stuff like that. So, yeah, if we can pick it up, then it shouldn't be a problem, but that's not been the case yet this year.
Yeah, that part is like.
So I don't think you can just abandon the run because you're telling them like, go ahead, tee off.
Yeah, but you also don't want to create a situation where you're running a bunch of 1 yard plays into the line of scrimmage and
No, I think you go try
putting
to
yourself behind the sticks again.
get to the outside a little bit more. But I mean, they against the better.
Here's my problem with that. We've talked about that, and when they've done it, it's always been one of those. No, not like that. Don't do it like that. The other way.
I'm good with any run that is not just like a straight dive between the tackles. I just don't think the running game is very imaginative. I think it's you're just relying on like winning your individual matchup and not necessarily like scheming it and stuff like that. But they have not been good against anyone like with a pulse outside of they did beat ECU somehow. 23-20.
They ran for like 500 and something, almost 600 yards, didn't they?
I mean, they lost 37-13 to Memphis. They lost 53-21 to Tulsa. They lost 38-20 to Houston. They were down 40-20 at SMU and then scored 2 late touchdowns to make it a lot closer than it really was. I mean, they lost to Delaware at the beginning of the year. Their wins are Temple in overtime, Air Force, and ECU. But I mean,
ECU's got to be kicking the shit out of themselves for that one, don't they?
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, they'd be right in the thick of this thing, kind of controlling their own destiny if they don't lose that Navy game.
Yeah, do they have 1 loss or do they have 2 losses?
I think they have 2 in conference, so they would have had 1. I think.
Yeah, I have no idea. But with the triple is just if you're not on your keys and you don't make tackles, I mean they're going to make it hard, and you're not going to have as many possessions. No matter, I mean, unless they turn the ball over and you just play lights out like we did. What was it? The COVID year?
Yeah, 20.
When it was like 42-0, and they just, I mean, they literally could not do anything.
They lost to Tulane.
Oh, okay. So,
they've got 2. If they would have had 1, though, they've got UCF coming up. They got Cincinnati coming up. Like
they have Houston.
Houston, yeah. They could have been a spoiler, if you will, in terms of making the conference championship game.
But I think we can the same problem that they've had now since joining the league is you just get to know the scheme a lot better. Yeah. And, especially with the transfer portal. I mean, I listened to Coach Niumatalolo's press conference this week, and he's a joy to listen to. Like, he's very, very honest, and it's refreshing. And he's like, it's going to take a Herculean effort. Like, these guys are still really damn good. He's like, someone asked him about, like, them and the Big 12 and playing the teams, and he's like, yes, I cannot wait for them to leave.
Luke basically was like, I will never play an option team again if I can.
No, hell no. But I mean, they've got their little slot backs and running backs and quarterback are going to be able to make plays if you don't. And that's the thing too, is the thing that we talked about earlier. How many of these guys have played a bunch of snaps against Navy defensively?
Well, let's go down the list. Hopefully Jabari is back.
Yep.
He was a limited but active participant in practice yesterday, which was different than a non-participant in practice Tuesday.
I think it's fair to say that, hopefully
it's a hamstring.
Hopefully he's a limited participant in the game.
Right.
Like, there's no way you can be a limited participant with a hamstring injury in practice and then go out there and play 70 snaps.
Right. He did participate. He was out there, but he wasn't 100% like out there with the first team doing every rep.
It's unrealistic to think he's just going to jump right back into pre-injury usage.
Right. So Jabari has.
Briggs has
one
game.
Year. Yeah. Dante is not.
Watley has not.
Potter is
Potter
not.
has not.
I think Watley played a little bit last
Little
year,
bit,
but
little
not significant.
Right.
Deshaun Pace has. Ivan Pace has not.
Huber
has some,
but
last
not
2
in
years.
but yeah,
Not in the DeBlanco Beavers. Like
right.
those were the guys.
Van Fossen had a great game last year, right?
Yeah.
Against them. Like
I would expect Van Fossen to be.
Well, yeah, because they're going to go 4-4.
Yeah. Shep, no. Arquan, no.
No, he
played one snap.
He got an interception.
Yeah, played one snap.
And he played against him in 20, but
I don't know how. But he was still the nickel. I don't know how much. He played.
He wasn't playing the same position. Correct.
Right. And there's just not a lot of need for a nickel on the field against Navy.
Well, no, they
so
don't.
I would assume it was similar to 21, where he didn't play a ton.
Right.
Hicks, yes,
but not a ton.
Well, he played last year, and he played in 19. Did they play him in 19?
I don't think so.
Okay. He was a starter last year against Navy, so he's had one game. But you're definitely not dealing with guys that have played Navy 2, 3, 4 times. Right. At all.
And then
I would guess.
And then the backups. I guess
Dominique Perry is going to have to play more if you're going to. And hypothetically, I would think we'll see Damo or Dante at the nose and Briggs at 3 tech in there together.
Right, but you do that, you have to play more guys then because those guys aren't going to play 70 snaps at.
So then Damo is going to have to. Damo's probably going to have to play nose, and then somebody like Watley or
Mulaney
will play the 3 tech, and then again, like we talked about, like you're getting, even if Jabari plays 50% of the snaps.
Oh no, Watley and Mulaney will still play end because
who's the 3 tech? If you play Briggs and Corleone together, and Damo is the nose behind Corleone, who is the 3 tech behind Briggs?
Probably Watley, not Mulaney.
Right?
Watley or Potter.
Potter, I think, is too upright. Like I think.
Yeah, but he's just. I mean, Mulaney's like 250 something. I mean, he's not playing in there.
Yeah, but their linemen aren't big. Maybe. It's probably not Mulaney. I'm just saying.
Right.
That's where the depth stuff. And if you're moving Watley to 3 tech, you've just got Potter and Mulaney at ends that have experience.
Do you bring Jaheim down more or Huber down more?
Maybe.
Because you've got Pace, Van Fossen. So does one of those other 2 guys play more of that hang defensive end, but in a 4-4, just more of like a true defensive end? Like Jaheim has played kind of that position in games before.
Yeah.
Where he's just like a stand-up defensive end. In this game, he would be more of just a traditional 4-man front defensive end. Because then you would still have those 3 other guys and Huber or some other formation of a safe. Maybe do you bring threats down? Because do you does
Omarion Smith play more? Do we see
he plays down because like Lamb Big says, is this a game where Bush can press more? You don't need five DBs.
Doesn't matter.
Well, you don't need 5 DBs. So like, does Omarion come down and play almost like a linebacker type of position? Does threats come down and do that? Like, I'm just thinking of ways that they'll use these guys because you're not going to have 2 outside corners, a slot, and 2 safeties.
No. Who is the scout team QB for option week? Will Adams has been the primary guy. Has come over from his safety spot and been the primary scout team option quarterback. Prediction time. What do you got?
I mean, given what we've seen and what Navy is, I'm going to say 31-14.
Okay. I think with a pass defense as bad as Navy has been, I think they pop this open in the second half. And they get into the 40s. I think the offense gets back on track
That's
a little
tough to
bit.
do with the number. I mean, they're going to have to score on almost all their possessions or have real short possessions. Or pull an SMU and score 48 points on 40 plays.
Yeah.
Or 40, I think it was 40 points on 48 plays.
Yeah. I think, well, maybe 38. How's 38? Not quite 40, but they find a way to get 5 touchdowns and a field goal.
You gotta, try to force some fumbles, or figure out a way to stop them on first down. Like, you're just not. If you don't do that, you're not going to get the possessions. Because even if you score on 50% of your possessions, touchdowns, to get to your number, you'd have to score, 5.
I've only got them scoring one more touchdown.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, they're going to have to play some defense to get, like, it's just hard to get unless they have like super quick drives or stuff like that.
I'm just thinking with a different quarterback that's really kind of doing this for the first time as the starter. He didn't have a lot of success against Temple.
Well, yeah, they didn't. I mean, it's not like they did not play well offensively against Temple.
Right. If Temple can slow him down, I'm going to take my chances.
Sure. No, I agree.
Slow down.
I'm just worried about the pass protection in order for us to get, more than like 28, 31 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, their
offense is not good.
I mean, they only ran for 224 yards.
Right.
They were 8 for 21 on third down, 2 for 4. They had 12 first downs the whole game. I think they kept it. They were able to win because they had 3. They forced 3 turnovers and got 4 sacks.
Right.
And Temple was 4 for 16 on third down, which is very UC of them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking in my head. Is Ben Bryant still the QB? Yes, Ben Bryant is still the QB.
Yes.
Does the current season that Ben is having a prerequisite to having a Des-like season next year?
No.
No. No.
I don't think they're. I mean, even with Des, like he almost got. Like, there were questions, especially like really questions in 20.
Right.
I mean, we're several years removed. Like, I can't say 100% certain, but I feel fairly confident in saying that, like, if Ben Bryant doesn't get COVID, he starts the USF game and Des does not that year. When Des played terrible, by the way. They won 28-7, but I mean, he threw like 3 or 4 interceptions.
Well, I mean, what changed Dez's career is coming out of the bye week against SMU.
Right. So, like, you can take it's college football. You can take a huge leap. I mean, just look at some of the guys that have gone from virtually unknowns to like top 5 draft picks.
Right.
In
1 year.
From 1 year to the next. So I don't think you have to be necessarily great to then do that again. I'll ask you, just your personal opinion. Do you think we see some more usage of Evan?
No. When? How?
Right. The way that I'm saying that I would think that they could use him was like not a back and forth 2 QB thing, but like a first down, and it might even be in the drive itself, but not this like run him out there on third down. That made no sense to me. Like, I don't know.
It's 3rd and 3, Dave. Evan's the key to opening up the run game. You just put Evan in there, all of a sudden the run game's unlocked. You just run for hundreds of yards a game.
Yeah, that's I don't agree with that.
I don't either. Maybe a couple extra. Like if I had to take, if you gave me 5.5 over under on number of plays, as long as there's not an injury or something.
Right? No,
crazy,
yeah.
I would take the under.
I think this would be a perfect game to do it, though.
Against a really, really good run defense?
No, against a defense that your quarterback then would be like much more athletic than pretty much anybody they have on defense.
Everybody they play is more athletic than everybody they have on defense.
No, that's not true.
Kind of is.
Evan is more athletic than everybody that was on UCS defense.
No, I'm talking about everybody Navy's defense plays.
Yeah,
on
but
the
they
other
don't...
side of the ball, they're all more athletic than Navy's defense.
Yes,
and they still hold teams to 3.2 yards per rush.
I understand that, but how many of those teams have a quarterback that they've played have a quarterback like him?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, didn't Temple quarterbacked by one of Kurt Warner's 47 kids? He's got to be pretty athletic.
Yeah, I think you and I are more athletic.
If you're asking me how many plays is he in there, I would say 5 or less.
All right, I was just curious.
I'm just answering I'm answering the question. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know.
And that might be fine though. That's the thing is like, what are those 5 plays? Like, what happened?
But here's the thing: if you told me 3.5, I'd probably take the under.
Oh, I would too, because we're going off of 6 years
Right.
of track record,
empirical evidence.
Right. I mean,
we've had 2 games where he's run 1 play outside of Ben having a concussion,
right, or a blowout.
And the rest, yeah, I'm talking about like in the normal,
right,
like flow of things.
Sure,
he ran 1 play against USF. He ran 1 play against UCF. And that was
he ran more. He ran a drive against USF. He ran 1 play against UCF.
USF was Ben's concussion.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in the regular,
right.
Ben is the quarterback.
Yes. I thought you said he ran 1 play against USF.
In the regular flow of Ben is healthy and the quarterback.
I didn't even remember that play. I was just thinking of the...
No, he came in and ran the play from the 10 on first down that they got to the...
Oh, yeah. That's right.
3 or whatever.
See, it was first down. That's what you should... First down. Red zone.
I agree with you. I don't like running him out there on 3rd down and telling the opposing team we're bringing in our running quarterback. Unless you're going to let him throw and like let him throw. I don't like that on 3rd down.
Yeah.
I'm 2nd and 7. I could also be sold on. You're setting yourself up for potentially a bad 3rd down, but 2nd and 7, I could be sold on.
My thing was with like the 3rd down play, run a normal 3rd down play, and if he happens to run, or if that's like that was just an obvious running play. Yeah.
And 3rd and 3. We've early in the game.
We've hammered that enough. But yeah, I'd just be interested. I mean, I'm interested to see like Luke's comment post game. Now, post game comments can be, what they are, and
sure
doesn't mean anything for the next game. But I mean, he said what I wanted him to say. Like, we need to find a way to use all of our weapons. Now let's see what happens.
Maybe you line them up out wide. You motion them into the backfield with Ben, and you just create some real chaos.
Sure. I mean, I'm fine with that. You can run so many normal formations that when you just put him on the field, the other team, it throws them for a loop.
Or you could bring him in on 3rd and 3 and run up the middle.
And run the read option. Yeah. RPO.
Simone family tailgate. Do we know a theme? Where are we at in the process?
I think we're having some assortment of sliders.
Sliders are good.
I don't know what that is not a the mom is not the one making those, so I'm not. I don't know exactly, but I'm sure I'm sure it'll be good. We'll obviously have lots of Jello shots. It'll be shorts
Because
weather.
I have an awesome slider recipe. Do you
Oh
think
well, she's not making them. One of the
Well,
other.
yeah, I didn't know she's making. I know she's not making them.
One of the
But
other
I'm saying
tailgate people.
I've never really contributed to the tailgate other than when I
Oh,
brought
are you
Everett's.
saying you're going to bring something?
I could bring. I've told you about my sliders, right?
I don't know.
Cheese coney sliders.
Oh,
So what you do is you take some ground beef, right? Get you some Cincinnati chili seasoning. Cook the beef down, and then you cut up your hot dogs into like little chunks.
yeah.
You put those in there, and you put a little Velveeta to bind it all together.
Okay.
And then you put them on the slider buns with mustard and some shredded like cheese coney cheese on top of it.
Right.
Put them in the oven for like 10, 15 minutes to let them do the thing. And then you have cheese coney sliders.
Sounds wonderful.
Text me and let me know if she wants me to bring them.
All right.
I'll bring them.
I'm sure she's listening right now. She can text me and tell me whether she wants you to bring them.
Sometimes she listens live. Sometimes she listens later, right? She's not always here live.
No.
I've been wanting to make them. I made them for the Super Bowl, and they were a huge hit.
Well, then just make them.
Okay, I'll just make them.
I mean, they're not going to not get eaten. But it's going to be great weather.
Yeah, mid 70s, and
we're definitely wearing shorts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you cannot complain one bit about an early November 70-degree football game day.
4:00 kick. I love a 4:00 kick. It's
I
great.
do too. Big fan. This keeps happening. I don't know who I need to talk to. I've seen like one Tennessee game this year because our games have been again this week they're at 3:30.
Right.
So, and it's just the biggest game they've had in like since I was a sophomore.
Right.
But
it's at Georgia, right?
It is.
Not since Alabama.
No, but this is
now that they beat Alabama. This is
Yeah.
the biggest game they've had since they were in the SEC championship game to go to the national championship.
They lose this, like Aaron, this could be it. They lose this, they don't make the SEC championship game. The chances of getting in the playoff are very slim.
Isn't that the same though? If they lost Alabama earlier this
They
season,
didn't.
right?
No,
so
because
it's the biggest game since Alabama.
But you could lose to Alabama, beat Georgia, and still win the East and
Yes.
play in the SEC championship game, win the SEC, and go to the playoff. If you lose to Georgia,
I got you. All right.
Georgia gets into the SEC championship game, right? Like that's divisions. I know divisions are a thing of the past, but the SEC is still
Antiquated.
They still believe
Yeah.
heavily in divisions.
So because after this, if they somehow pull off the upset, they have South Carolina, Missouri, and Vandy.
They're in the SEC championship.
You would think.
Something really crazy would have to happen.
Right. So yes, I'm not thrilled about it, but
How will you be like? Will you be watching on your phone? Is that an option?
no, I won't. I'll just look at texts from buddies and check the score and whatever.
Are you recording it to watch when you get home?
No, I do not do that.
What if they win and you want to go back and watch?
I mean, if they
ESPN
win,
plus it.
well, no, it's on CBS.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to record it at least to give yourself the option.
If they win, then great. But
if they win, you don't want to go back and like relive it.
it's just not the same.
I know it's not the same, but I mean,
I don't know. We'll see.
if they win, though, I'm even more worried about Tulane than ever because then the 1998 thing is really like happening, right?
Feels like 98.
Right, and Tulane, that was the best season that like Tulane's ever had, right? Didn't they finish in the top 10?
Oh, they were undefeated. I don't know where they finished.
I think they finished pretty close, if not in the top 10, pretty close to the top 10 in '98.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me a lot more worried about Tulane. So, go Dogs. What?
I mean,
So
I would still like. I actually wasn't. I mean, yes, it was surprising that they beat Alabama, whatever. But like, I would be shocked if they won Saturday. I know, I think they can, but like going
Georgia's without their number one guy, right?
Well, Lorenzo Carter's back. Their defensive lineman, who's
Okay, he is back.
even better than Nolan Smith. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, they've got really good DBs. They've got a really good defensive line. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
And that was Talkin' Vols. Brought to you by whatever that awesome sandwich place is on campus in
Gus's Good Time Deli.
I've never been, but you've told me great things.
Steamed sandwiches.
I've only driven through Knoxville. I've never actually stopped.
Yeah. Well, if you've driven through Knoxville, you haven't seen campus.
No, I haven't. I'm not saying I have.
Yeah.
I've been on the outskirts. What's that? 260 that you take to get over to 40, or 240 or whatever it is to get over to 40 to go towards Asheville.
I don't even know. 275 loops around.
Yeah, 270, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Beers says he thinks UCF will lose to Memphis this weekend.
I'm not gonna not agree.
Aaron, you're the AAC expert. What do you think?
I mean, they've won.
I hope they do.
They've won one league road game in 2 years, so we'll see.
Right?
I'm not even sure UCF knows what quarterback they're starting yet. So,
Plumlee coming back would be
a miracle.
A bit of a surprise. I mean, it's
a gamble with a kid's future.
That would be risky. Why does Dave like UT again?
Yes.
Dave is to Tennessee what Van Wilder was to Florida State.
Oh no, I was not. I wasn't there that long. I caught an extra football season, but not that it was a good one.
But you caught it.
I did. Yes, I had a good run.
I had a good run. That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
That's one way to put it. You wanna hit some conference stuff, some Big 12 stuff?
Sure.
TV deal is apparently in the home stretch.
Yeah, I think it's like handshakes, hugs. Yeah, not officially official, but basically official.
I think there's a deal like that at UC right now that I can't talk about, but
I mean, they're not allowing that information to get. I mean, Mac Rhodes from Baylor's AD basically said he can confirm what Sports Business Journal reported. So, like,
right.
I mean, that's basically what it is.
Yeah. What's your now that you've had a couple days to sift through all the fine print and all the details, what's your takeaway?
I mean, I think it's a great deal for everybody involved. If you're one of the existing remaining Big 12 schools, just think like kick it back however long ago that was, like 18 months, 15 months, whatever it was. When Texas and Oklahoma leave, how many just obituaries were written about the Big 12?
Right.
Just they're dead. The commissioner's saying that those two schools are worth 50%. Stuart Mandel writes an article saying that like their TV deal is going to be AAC-esque, $7 million a year.
Yeah.
The conference is going to blow up. Everybody's running like it's the Titanic, and then you sign a deal where if you're a Baylor and Oklahoma State, like not only are you not making less money, you're making a little bit more. That right there just shows you the value of live sports.
Yeah.
That a Texas and Oklahoma can leave, and you're making more money, a little bit more, but it's still more money. And so they're happy. They're like, hey, we're still whole. Like we're not having to look at our budgets again and go, okay, now we have to figure out how to stretch this. And then for like UC, like when it's all said and done, we'll just throw around about $50 million out there.
Yes.
Like, when you take the media part of it, and then you take whatever the playoff is going to be, and whatever the basketball units are, and whatever other deals Brett Yormark cooks up, let's just say $50 million. You're getting 5x at least.
7x. I mean, 7-8 million is the number. Like,
yeah, I mean, we don't ever hear what the actual number that the conference distributes because it's so paltry. They don't want to say, but let's just say it's 10. 5x. I mean, what can you do with an extra $40 million a year?
I could do a lot.
Oh yeah,
I could do a lot.
So it's obviously huge for them. I have always wanted to stay on ESPN and Fox. I think that's the smart thing to do. I think that.
I just don't think we talked about this a little bit the other night. I don't think streaming is there yet to be a foundation for live sports.
Streaming is a nice piece, but
right. I'm not
like the stuff that's still going to be on ESPN Plus. That's fine. You're going to get some non-conference basketball games. You're going to get some
out of conference football, the Miami
football.
game.
You might even get. I mean, like Iowa State and Oklahoma are on ESPN Plus this year or this week.
Right.
So depending on how your season's going, yeah, you could be on ESPN Plus. But everybody already has ESPN Plus in the Big 12 and UC fans. Like it's already ingrained in your brain that like, yes, I might have to go do this. And that if you have a good season, you're not going to be on there. Whereas if you're making this like a high level part of your package, like you're going to have a lot on there.
Right.
And my whole thing is like the people listening to this pod, and when you talk about the Pac-12 or the Big 12 or whoever, like we're going to go find our game no matter what because we're the diehards. But like,
of course,
say UC's just having an average season and they play on ESPNU against Kansas State.
Mm-hmm.
How many people are going to go watch that game that aren't UC or Kansas State fans versus how many people are going to go onto Amazon that aren't Cal or Oregon State fans?
Right. And
the biggest thing that annoys me with streaming and why I do not watch stuff on ESPN Plus?
Just 30 seconds behind the play.
That, but more so than that, I can't flip to another game.
Right. You're stuck on that game.
You're stuck on that game. And so if I'm sitting here on a Saturday and say UC's not playing in the Big 12, but I can watch all these other Big 12 games, I'm not going to go to Amazon to watch. I'm never going to go to Amazon to watch a Pac-12 game.
And there's John with the exact same thing.
Like, I'm never going to be like, oh, I'm going to go check out this Pac-12 game because I'm like, well, then I just don't have, and then it takes me another minute or two to flip back to, whatever game, whatever other game I want to watch.
The other thing is Pac-12, 10 o'clock kickoffs. If you're on Amazon at 10 o'clock, I mean, you're typically not looking for live sports. Kathy, see, I disagree here when it comes to live sports. People are still looking, and a lot of people still have And people are going back to the cord because the thing that was attractive about streaming initially was a lower cost, especially with like YouTube TV, like the stuff that carries everything kind of bundled for you.
Now
those prices have skyrocketed. They're the same as cable.
The prices have skyrocketed, and it's just broken up a ton now.
Yeah.
So we're like, yes, I'm probably paying more for I'm a cable guy. I've got Spectrum, whatever. I'm probably paying more, but I can get it all in one place. Yeah. I don't have to go to Hulu for this and Paramount
Netflix,
Plus for this and Amazon for this. And, I can get it all in one spot. And I'm, you're willing, some people like me, I'm willing to pay for the convenience. I'm willing to pay for that. And I think the thing that isn't getting discussed from the Pac-12's angle is if it's just going to be ESPN and Amazon,
or Apple.
No, Apple I don't think is even. I think this is an.
I know. I'm just throwing like hypotheticals.
But like, ESPN's going to want the A package.
Yeah. So now Amazon,
Amazon's going to pay a ton of money for the leftover Pac-12 stuff that is with USC and UCLA not involved.
Right.
That's the part I don't understand is like, and I heard, Andrew Marchand and John Orand have a podcast, and, John talked about maybe they'll do like a 50-50 split of the A stuff. And I'm like, why would ESPN do that?
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, I want all the best games in the 10 o'clock, 10:30 window. Why am I splitting the A stuff?
I want the A pick every week.
And the Pac-12 would be out of their mind to give Amazon the A stuff.
Right. Unless Amazon just throws a stupid amount of money at them, but that doesn't.
See, that's the thing.
Doesn't make sense.
What is a better deal? Just are we strictly looking at a better deal from who got more money per school? Or are we looking at a better deal of who got more money per school, but then also has good exposure?
I guess here's an interesting question. Do you think the Big East is better off over the past 8 years or whatever it's been going to Fox?
No, absolutely not. Here's another one. When the AAC did their deal in 2019, there was a lot of talk of like, let's go. What if they went to NBC and was like the main thing on NBC? Or what if they left ESPN and blah, 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 because we hate ESPN because they're trying to ruin the conference and all this shit.
I know where this is going. It's a great question if you ask the question I think you're going to ask.
What do you think happens to UC if they're not on ESPN the last 2 years?
They're not going to the Big 12.
And they're not going to the playoff either.
Right. Yeah. Peacock does want into the market. They tried that with Notre Dame, and the results were bad, right, Dave? Were they not?
Well, they're going to be in the market with the new Big Ten deal, and we'll see how that goes because, like, not many.
But didn't they put a Notre Dame game on Peacock last year?
They did it this last week or 2 weeks ago against UNLV. They did a game on Peacock last year too.
Last year was the
first year. Yeah,
first year.
It's the first year,
and the numbers weren't anywhere near what people thought they were going to be.
No,
and just streaming is not. Look, streaming is awesome. I have it. I stream lots of stuff. I don't mind when UC's on ESPN Plus. I don't love it, but I don't mind it. But it's not what sports fans think when they think I want to watch sports unless it involves their very specific team.
Right. Like how many games, and I'll just say this for myself, I don't think I've watched a non-UC game on ESPN Plus.
I've watched a couple things, but they were always UC related, as in like, this is who UC plays in 2 weeks, or like, I haven't seen this team yet, and I want to get a look at them in this game because it's
I don't even know if I've gone that far.
I know, but I'm saying, like, in the very rare exception that I have, it's always been work related, is what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at.
Right. But I mean, kind of back to the deal itself. I mean, ESPN is definitely still the main rights holder. They have a high percentage of the football selections. But I think, it's kind of funny though. Oklahoma and Texas leaving is not like a good thing. I mean, they certainly would make a ton more money if they were still in the
Yeah,
conference.
they'd be up in the 60s, 70s if Oklahoma, Texas stayed.
But Fox apparently liked the fact that without them, there'll be a lot more parity in the sense of they didn't care as much that
Every game is going to be more interesting.
Well, they didn't care as much that ESPN got like the better picks.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Because there's no telling who's going to be like the best pick. It's not like with Fox and they instantly just go Ohio State, Michigan, first pick every year, or whatever, Alabama, LSU.
Perfect example, Dave. What pick would TCU, Kansas State have been?
Right. Well, it was on FS1, so that tells you what pick it was.
Right. And guess what?
And it was
FS1 had great ratings for that game.
So Fox looks at it as like, yes, ESPN's going to get the first picks, but our fifth pick might end up being the game of the year.
Game of the week, yeah.
Or of the year. We just don't know. So, and I think, and then they're coming in basketball. I know there was a question earlier about what that means for the Big East in basketball. I'm not sure because you could look at it from the Big East standpoint. Their contract with Fox is up in 2024, 2025. But Fox also carries Pac-12 basketball. So is this just replacing what they did with the Pac-12? I mean, ESPN gets the first 20 selections in basketball. So the Fox part of it is not going to be huge. But here's the thing, though. It's still several years away, but what is Fox's appetite for Big East basketball the next time around? Because you always have to be thinking of the next contract, and Brett Yormark obviously looked at that with doing a deal that would then be up for renegotiation before the ACC and the SEC, which are the two main. They're the exclusive rights they have their exclusive rights on ESPN.
Yeah.
So you're getting to the table before them. After the playoff has been running for and we'll see how long the playoff contract is for as well. But that's the other it'll be interesting because I don't think the Big East going to Fox has been what they maybe thought it was going to be.
Well, talk for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. But again, the contract having ESPN and Fox, especially with the playoff expanding, you're going to have more networks. It's going to be more like the NFL playoffs where you have certain rounds or certain games on multiple networks. So you're going to be having exposure, promotion, whatever you want to call it, on these are the two main channels that cover college football. CBS they still have a little pie with the Big Ten, but it's not major.
It's not SEC game of the week.
Well, it'll be third Big Ten game of the week.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's not SEC game of the week is a pretty big thing to have. Right?
Yeah.
Here's what the Fox Big East thing. So I think Fox, who at the time that this went down was just starting FS1, and I think there was a belief that the Big East could do for FS1 what the Big East did for ESPN.
Right.
Because if you remember, when the Big East really became a thing, ESPN was just becoming a thing. Live sports on cable was just really becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And
but I have
they hit the mother lode because you had all of these personalities and all these guys that ended up being Hall of Famers, right? Like mega stars. And as the Big East exploded in basketball, ESPN was like a conduit.
It grew with it.
They rode each other to the top.
The only problem is there was no ESPN already in place at that time.
The other thing is, what markets did that include at the time? Like, as cable was becoming a thing.
Well,
Because remember, even back then, cable wasn't really a thing.
no, and you know what else? Neither was college football.
Right. College football was not, I mean, it was big, it was massive, but it wasn't this.
It wasn't like this, man. I mean, it
Right,
wasn't
no,
even
absolutely
close.
not.
It was
Absolutely
big.
not.
It was big in the South. It was big at Notre Dame. It was big at Oklahoma and Nebraska, Ohio State, Michigan, UCLA, USC, and that was about it.
Right. FS1 was hoping they would recapture that with that Big East. But other than Jay Wright, there weren't the coaching personalities. There weren't, and Villanova dominated that league. So the storylines weren't all that compelling. Was it good basketball? For the most part, yes. Was it great basketball? No. And it
You
never.
just don't have the same. I mean, you had behemoths in the coaching ranks.
Yeah.
That weren't that at the time. I mean, they were young coaches and they were.
John Thompson.
But you also had programs that in that early stage also like won national championships.
Villanova, Jim Valvano, Raleigh Massimino,
Georgetown.
Yeah, John Thompson,
Syracuse. Like, I mean,
Boeheim was a younger guy. He wasn't young. Even in the 80s, Boeheim wasn't young.
He started there in the late 70s. So, but you also had
making fun of how old he is.
Those teams though also won titles.
Right, and they had one year they had 3 teams in the Final Four.
Yeah, so, I mean they just like they don't get good. It doesn't get good ratings. I don't think it's done. You know, I won't say it's hurt them, but I'm not sure it's helped them.
It definitely hasn't been the flagship that they had hoped it would become.
ESPN they just suck up all the airspace, man. Like,
yeah,
they've been around long enough. You know, for the most part.
They're better at it than anybody else.
Well, and you know, for the most part, like, if you don't have a very, very specific game that you want to watch, you can find a good game, whether it's college basketball or college football. You can find a good game by just going to one of the ESPNs.
Yeah.
You don't have to hunt. You just know where to go.
Last weekend, there were a couple SEC games on ESPN+. Yes, because the SEC has an exclusive contract, essentially, going forward with ESPN.
Once you get into conference season, there's just not enough places to park all your games. And
don't they put games on SEC Network Plus? Basketball games?
Yeah, that's basically ESPN Plus. Like, yeah, there is an SEC Network 2 or whatever you want to call it.
I think you have to pay extra. Like, I think you have to. I don't think it is just basically ESPN Plus.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if Tennessee's ever on that, I'm not watching it anyway. So,
if I recall correctly, I think the UC game at Georgia, which was the night of the AAC championship against Tulsa.
Yeah.
I think that game was on like SEC Network Plus.
Yeah, I think it was.
Because you couldn't watch it with ESPN Plus in the press box. And by the time I got up to the press box, they had just given up like a 22-1 run going into halftime. So I didn't bother trying to watch the second half in the press box because I got out of the rain.
Right. But, I mean, I think, to wrap kind of that whole thing, I think it's a great deal I think it's unbelievably impressive that Brett Yormark gets this done in basically 3 months.
Yeah.
And, could they have gotten more money waiting and going to the open market? Maybe. But I guess my question is, are you willing to wait 16 months and have that instability kind of hanging over your head.
Right.
Like, yes, the Pac-12 might make more money, but like there's just it's in flux much more. Like this, you pay a little bit of a price, I imagine, for the stability of it. You pay a little bit of a price to do a 6-year deal. You pay a little bit of a price going 16 months early. But now you have cost certainty, you have stability, you have your platforms are right there in front of you. You can work all of your other deals off of it. You can set up all your advertising, all your everything can now go in motion because you know what the next 6 years is going to bring. And UC can build a like Scrooge McDuck money pit, and I can jump off a diving board into it.
There's a lot of money. Somebody asked us, what do you think the extra money will be spent on?
Well, I can
primarily infrastructure.
I can tell you because I've been told.
Okay, go ahead. Are you allowed?
Yes, I'm allowed. Because none of this is like surprising. A new baseball scoreboard. Some women's sports stuff like women's basketball needs some stuff. Women's volleyball needs some stuff. Debt, as Bearcat 12 just said. Yes, there's still a lot of debt on the Lindner Center and these other projects. So, a lot of money will go to paying those bills down. And people, they are very, very big on spending money on talent, and that goes well beyond just like coaching salaries. I mean, you've seen how many people.
A lot of it's going to be on storytelling, building out mental health department, nutrition, fundraising, all these. Like they want to bring in as much talent as possible, and that's the biggest expenditure. Obviously you're going to have a lot of money to build a practice facility and stuff like that, but I don't think there is. They think they can spend their money better and by bringing in talented people than just like building more stuff. Right.
But there's certainly things that need work and need updating and building. To we're jumping up to a conference that distributed $42 million last year.
Right.
So, but those are kind of the main thing. I'm sure there's tons of others, but those are kind of the main ones.
And a lot of it, people have to remember, like, because of this vision, because of where they wanted to end up, and this goes back to debt a little bit, they have been acting as if they are a Power 5 university. Now, they haven't, it's not like they've been spending like they've had the $50 million, but they haven't been spending like they're only making 7. And there is going to be a level of catch-up, Dave, that has to be played because all of these programs have had that money for a while.
Right.
And there are going to be infrastructure things. There are going to be staffing things. There are going to be, certain projects that may seem small on the surface, but may take $10 million to catch up to where every other school in the Big 12 is. Mm-hmm. It might not be $100 million projects, but it could very easily be $3, $4, $5, $7 million projects, $10 million projects, just to get on equal footing with everybody. Like Cunningham wasn't, he wasn't throwing, darts blindfolded at a dartboard when they named it the Day One Ready campaign.
No.
You're going to be competing with 8 schools that have a significant head start, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you have to think of it in those terms as well.
Should we
Steven, no. Steven, no. He says, I'm only interested in putting this Big 12 money towards the endowment. Want to hear nothing more about expenditures, only endowment. Give me endowment. If it's give me endowment or give me death, then we're going to have to kill you off, man. Sorry. Men's basketball only practice facility. That's down the road. I do think it's something on the wish list. I know it's something on the wish list from the men's basketball side. But UC runs into the same problem there that they run into with anything on campus, right? Where?
Yeah.
Where does the basketball only practice facility go? Especially like they kind of have one. They don't, but they do. That's a difficult nut to crack, I think, if you're John Cunningham.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh God, I hate you both. BJ, what's wrong with being well endowed? And Steven says Brian gets me. Kathy says certain projects were funded through donors. Certain parts of projects were funded through donors.
Through very and that's the other thing that we need to grow is certain projects were funded by the same donors.
Yeah, but not all of those funds.
No.
But what I'm saying is there was funding.
There's funding that you have to have to get the loan for the rest of it, but then it wasn't 100% donations.
Like one would say the Linder Center was funded by donors. They're still paying off the debt from the Linder Center. They're still paying off the debt from Fifth Third Arena. They're still paying off the debt from Nippert Stadium. Those projects were funded by donors, in part. There are still a lot of dollars that need to cover what the donors did not cover.
Yes. The Armory.
When's the field house going to be a permanent hockey rink? Never.
There's discussions about ways to use. That'll be an interesting one now that there's like actually money.
Yeah.
Before it was just there wasn't money.
Well, and the problem with that was, in order to make that useful for anything, it basically has to be completely gutted.
Yeah.
Because it's not. There's lead paint. There's.
Yeah.
It's very old. Very old.
It's a big storage facility right now.
Yeah. I really hadn't seen the scope of how old that place is.
Oh yeah.
Until during COVID, we had to go check in there to get in. We had to go sign the papers that we had our COVID tests and it's old. And it seems like an obvious place for a basketball practice facility. I think the only problem there is, one, it's like if you talk about like what a men's basketball practice facility looks like these days, it's a smaller scale of what the football practice facility looks like with offices and weight room and nutrition and
like you're really only fitting like one normal court in there.
Right.
You're not you're not getting 3 courts sideways with one with one court down the middle type thing.
And there's no room for like a basketball offices and
no, you can't expand it out the one side because there's buildings
and the other side is just like
a walkway.
There's like space for 2 trucks, like 2 18-wheelers to unload there. That's it. Like that would be a tough spot to do a basketball practice facility.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I'm sure
the Gonzaga thing. Do the people want us to talk about
the Gonzaga thing? Can I say something that is not gonna elicit?
I know. I think I know where you're going with this.
I'm kind of indifferent.
Like I mean, if it happens,
if they added them, cool. Like
hi Ed,
I'm cool with that. Like they're obviously a great basketball program. Now they're looking to park all their sports. They're not just coming for basketball. So does that make sense? But if they don't, like, it's very much exploratory, it seems. I mean, it seems like Gonzaga is realizing that they need to figure out a way to get out of the West Coast Conference.
Yeah.
More so than like the Big East, the Big 12, or the Pac-12 is like dying to add them. This feels more like
I think it would be safe to say Gonzaga is initiating these calls.
Yes. I mean, the meeting happened in Dallas last week when Gonzaga played Tennessee, which, by the way, we torched that ass. We're basically the best program in football and basketball now. But yes, they were in Dallas for one of these like charity exhibition games, and Brett Yormark met with their AD there. I think Brett Yormark is in the business of evaluating properties and commodities, and
he wasn't kidding when he said we're open for business.
Like, I think I would have no problem with it. I think it would suck from UC's standpoint, just add another behemoth into the basketball conference. But it would certainly be additive. I mean, I saw a tweet tonight that if they did add them, they would have the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 Ken Palm teams from 2022 in the conference.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they don't add them, I'm not like, oh my God, what a lost opportunity. So
I'm with you on that. The conference is already a monster.
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent on it. Like, I think it would be great. I could totally understand why it would. I think it would do a lot of good things for Gonzaga, do a lot of good things for the conference. But if they don't, then whatever, it's fine.
It plays into the pro rata agreement, though, where you potentially get more money than for the entire conference.
Yeah, but basketball doesn't. It moves the needle to a point, but I mean,
I honestly don't know how it would, because I mean, in the ESPN part of the contract, it says that they have to be a Power 5.
Right.
But what does that mean for? They're obviously not, but
they are.
But they are, because they don't have football. So it's. I mean, how are we? How are they concerned in that? But they're certainly not getting they're not getting $20 million.
I mean, I would think that if you're bringing in a Gonzaga, they're coming in with other teams. You're not just bringing in Gonzaga, would be my assumption. Gonzaga.
But I mean, who else then? What else are you bringing? Like, you're not. Then you're not doing the additive thing. Then you're just having a hanger on for the sake of numbers.
And what did I saw somebody post today, they made the tournament one time without Mark Few. Like this run is not who they were before Mark Few got there.
They made it with what was his name? It's gonna bother me. I can't.
But I more so just in this run. UConn?
Absolutely.
Yeah, add UConn in basketball. That's
but I've seen what if you added Boise for football? Why? That's not good. That's not additive.
No.
Would
San Diego State?
They're also not P5.
Right. San Diego State doesn't. I think
change anything.
I think you're looking at it like.
I guess the question would be here: does Gonzaga force the hand of Arizona? Maybe. Basketball is king at Arizona.
Yeah, for sure.
Does adding Gonzaga, meaning that's no longer an option for the Pac-12 to boost the basketball brand? Would it be a power play to show Arizona, we're on the same page?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe. I don't have that answer. I'm just tossing the question out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just on the surface, without trying to get into all these
Dana Altman is who he was going for. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's gonna drive me. I'm gonna have to Google it.
Munson.
Drive me.
Munson.
Dan. Yes, whatever.
Munson. Yeah. It just came to me out of nowhere.
But I mean, just them strictly on the surface, adding them 13 basketball teams, 12 football teams. I would have no problem with that. Yeah. You can.
I mean, I like you. I'm kind of indifferent.
UC's been living in that world with like Wichita. It hasn't diluted anything. It hasn't made it any different. It hasn't made things any harder for football. The problem with and I saw some people like talking about it, like the old Big East was like split 50-50 between like tiny small Jesuit schools that only played basketball and these monster city schools that played both. Like it's not the same.
And the old Big East also had a core group that felt like
that had
we
been there
built this and we're being ignored.
Right. Well, they've been there from the jump. They
Right.
built it. Then all these football schools came on board, and then football blew up, and now they're the ones making the decisions. You know,
Right.
and so yes, it's. I don't see a problem with it, but I also like if it happened.
I'm indifferent.
Yes, I think it's interesting as shit.
Yeah.
but
I don't care what. Like nothing about this hinges on whether Gonzaga is part of the Big 12 or not.
No, they're clearly looking at their future.
Would you like the best cheesecake you've ever had after eating your $100 bone-in ribeye?
Sure.
Yeah. Cheesecake's good. Give me some cheesecake. The buzz about Xavier getting a football team, apparently it's real. I can't speak much on it.
I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Apparently Xavier's going to get a football team.
All right, that's cool.
They think that is the answer to a problem that they are having retaining male students between year 1 and year 2.
Oh, they're having a problem with that?
Yeah. They're losing like 20%, 20% of their male student population after their freshman year.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, we hate to see it.
I mean,
and there's not a large number of students there anyway. So
as a proud Xavier alum,
will you be tailgating? Will the Simone family tailgate?
I can see why you wouldn't want to go to school in a bunch of buildings that look like a prison.
Isn't the problem there maybe like you just have no like nightlife, no anything for students to do?
I don't know. I mean,
they have no Greek system. They have one bar.
I went at night like 3 days a week for a year and a half. I don't know.
But I'm saying I think that would be more responsible for your problem.
It's why I picked like the schools that I wanted to go to. It was like I feel like if you go to a school like that, it felt like you were still in high school.
Even if you live there.
Yeah.
You're just at high school living in your bedroom that's no longer connected to your mom and dad's house.
Yeah, there's not like a kitchen full of food that you just walk down the stairs and go eat whenever you feel like it.
Right.
But no, I mean, I know UT faced that problem, not necessarily with men specifically, but like they had a problem a while ago where they were not retaining a lot of
because they were bad at football.
Well, because they also had this weird vision that they were going to be like this really, really high level academic school. And it's like, or just be a big state school in the South and not try to be something that you're not. But yeah, I don't know why like if you're a dude, I'm not sure why you would want to go to Xavier. But hey, to each their own.
Somebody else tweeted and said it. I can't put my finger on the problem of retaining male students, but I saw a T-shirt back in the day.
Would they play there? Would they like turn their baseball field into a football field and like?
No, apparently they would build probably something like Thomas More has.
Where?
I guess there's an empty Kroger parking lot over there. So like there's a lot of.
Oh my god! I don't know why that made me laugh, but like.
I'm serious. Apparently there's an abandoned, like a dead Kroger that they're going to turn into a football field or something.
I mean, if they're looking to light money on fire, I can think of some other ways to do it.
It's rich. Basketball, we don't like. We'll have more starting next week. We'll get into a lot of basketball on Sunday night. I think we're going to do the BBP on Sunday night with the opening game against Chaminade on Monday. Berg is going to have a story, a preview story for his thoughts as we get into the get into the season sometime this weekend. We're ready to go for basketball. Like, I don't. Everybody's clamoring for more basketball. We had Jeff Goodman. We had Chad Dollar. We had Tobes. Wes has stopped on a couple times. We've talked a lot. Like, I don't know what else. It's not football where there's 100 guys. There's 13 guys.
The season starts in like 3 days. We'll have plenty to talk about.
Right? Once we get things rolling, there's going to be a shit ton of stuff to talk about, and we'll see how long they can keep Dave engaged this year.
Well, for being honest, the early schedule is not going to be the thing that keeps me engaged. They better play well.
Yeah, Maui will keep you engaged.
Yes, of course.
Except for the tip off of the first game is at 11:30 on a weeknight, and if they lose, I think they pretty much stay in that time slot because then they move the bigger games into the primetime slots.
Right.
And the lesser games either go into the afternoon or,
I always love the first round of Maui because the game started like
3 o'clock.
Early in the afternoon and goes super late.
Yeah. Oh, they tip the scheduled tip is 11:30 with the game in front of them. So tip is probably going to be more like 11:45, which means that game's rolling until 2 a.m.
Yeah. A pretty good sense that I won't be catching much of that one.
I think that might be a great spot for us to do like a live watch. Where the game's on and we're talking about it without sound, but we're just live reacting to everybody watching the game. I don't know.
Hopefully it goes well.
All right. I think that's going to just about do it. I don't have anything else, do you?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, everybody have a good night. We'll have Rock of Truth tomorrow night, and a lot of different stuff to get to as we go through the weekend, and we get into one of the busier weeks of the year with 5 games in 8 days between football and basketball. He's Dave Simone. I'm Chad Brendel. Thank you to a producer extraordinaire, Aaron Smith. This is the BCJ podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com.